There comes a moment in every man's life when everything feels heavy. Not because life is unfair, but because you've been carrying things that were never meant to be yours. Other people's expectations. Other people's opinions. Other people's timelines. Somewhere along the way, you stopped listening to yourself and started living on autopilot. You wake up tired, not because you didn't sleep, but because your soul is exhausted. You scroll, you compare, you overthink. You try to please everyone and end up disappointing yourself. This is where rebuilding begins, not at the top, not in confidence, not in motivation, but at the lowest point, where denial ends and truth begins. Rebuilding yourself does not start with loud motivation. It starts in silence. It starts when you finally admit, something is wrong, and I can't keep living like this. Most people never reach this stage because they're afraid of facing themselves. They stay distracted. They stay numb. They stay busy. But you, right now, you're here because deep down you know you were meant for more. And knowing that is painful. Because potential unused feels like self-betrayal. You don't hate life. You hate the version of yourself you've allowed to exist. Let's get something brutally clear, nobody is coming to save you. Not your friends. Not your family. Not society. Not motivation videos. And not even God, unless you move first. Help comes only after action. Waiting has ruined more lives than failure ever did. You've been waiting to feel ready, waiting to feel confident, waiting for clarity. But clarity comes after movement, not before. Rebuilding yourself means accepting responsibility for everything, your habits, your mindset, your discipline, your future. Even the things that weren't your fault become your responsibility the moment you decide to grow. The first stage of rebuilding is destruction. Yes, destruction. You cannot build a new life on a weak foundation. The old mindset has to die. The lazy routines have to die. The victim mentality has to die. The version of you that seeks validation has to die. This is not poetic. This is painful. You will feel lonely. You will feel misunderstood. You will feel like you're falling behind while others seem ahead. But understand this, isolation is not punishment, it's preparation. Every powerful transformation begins with separation. When you start focusing on yourself, people will call you selfish. Let them. They benefited from the old version of you, the one who gave too much, tolerated disrespect, and ignored his own growth. The moment you withdraw your energy, the moment you stop explaining yourself, the moment you stop being available to everyone, that's when resistance appears. Not because you're wrong, but because you're changing. Growth threatens comfort. Your comfort, and theirs. You must learn to sit alone with your thoughts without escaping. No phone. No noise. No dopamine. Just you and the truth. This is where most people break. Because silence exposes everything you've been avoiding. Regret. Guilt. Fear. Missed opportunities. Wasted years. But this confrontation is necessary. You cannot rebuild what you refuse to examine. You cannot heal what you keep numbing. Pain is not your enemy, avoidance is. Rebuilding yourself means reprogramming your identity. Right now, you don't act according to who you want to be. You act according to who you believe you are. And if you believe you're weak, distracted, unlucky, or average, you will subconsciously prove it every day. Your habits are a reflection of your self-image. Change the identity, and behavior follows. Not the other way around. Stop asking, what should I do? Start asking, who must I become? Focus is the currency of transformation. Where your attention goes, your life follows. If you give your focus to drama, comparison, and comfort, you get a weak life. If you give your focus to discipline, learning, and growth, you get power. Focusing on yourself doesn't mean ignoring the world forever. It means temporarily withdrawing to sharpen your mind, body, and purpose. Lions don't train in crowds. They prepare in silence. You will feel tempted to go back to old habits. Old people. Old comforts. That's normal. Familiar pain feels safer than unfamiliar growth. But understand this, every time you choose comfort over discipline, you delay the life you want. Rebuilding yourself requires doing what's hard when no one is watching. Waking up early. Training when you don't feel like it. Working when motivation is gone. Saying no when it's easier to say yes. This is how self-respect is built, not through words, but through actions repeated daily. This is the phase where excuses must die. Your past no longer gets a vote. Your environment no longer gets control. Your emotions no longer get the steering wheel. Discipline becomes your new identity. Not extreme. Not obsessive. But consistent. Calm. Unbreakable. You stop negotiating with weakness. You stop romanticizing laziness. You stop explaining your goals. You move in silence and let results speak. And here's the truth most people won't tell you, rebuilding yourself will cost you relationships. Some people won't recognize the new you. Some won't like it. Some will try to pull you back. That's the price of growth. You must decide what matters more, temporary approval or permanent self-respect. You cannot build a powerful future while clinging to people who are committed to your past. This first part is not about confidence. It's about honesty. It's about looking in the mirror and saying, I allowed this. And I will change it. No blame. No excuses. No self-pity. Just ownership. This is where power begins. Not when life becomes easy, but when you become strong. You are not broken. You are unfinished. And rebuilding yourself is not about becoming someone else. It's about removing everything you were never meant to be. The noise. The fear. The weakness. The dependency. What remains is clarity. And clarity is dangerous, because once you see the truth, you can't unsee it. This is only the beginning. Rebuilding yourself requires one brutal decision most people avoid their entire lives: stepping away. Not running away, stepping away with intention. Away from noise. Away from opinions. Away from constant stimulation. Away from people who drain more than they build. Isolation is not loneliness when it's chosen. It's a controlled environment where weakness is exposed and strength is forged. This is where excuses die quietly, without applause. The modern world is designed to keep you distracted. Notifications. Endless content. Opinions screaming for your attention. Dopamine on demand. Comfort on tap. And the cost? Your focus. Your ambition. Your identity. If you want to rebuild, you must declare war on distractions. Not tomorrow. Now. Because every minute you lose to mindless consumption is a minute stolen from the future you claim to want. You cannot rebuild with a scattered mind. Isolation forces you to face resistance. When the phone is off and the room is quiet, your mind will rebel. It will crave comfort. It will replay old memories. It will tempt you with shortcuts. This is the test. Mental discipline is built when you don't give in. When you sit through boredom. When you train your attention like a muscle. Focus is not talent, it's trained endurance. And most people never train it. Cutting distractions isn't about deleting apps for a week and feeling productive. It's about changing your relationship with stimulation. Ask yourself, why do I reach for my phone when I'm uncomfortable? Why do I need noise to feel okay? Why do I avoid stillness? The answers are uncomfortable, but necessary. Stillness reveals who you really are. And who you are determines what you become. Isolation also reveals the truth about people. When you stop being available, you'll notice who disappears. When you stop explaining, you'll see who never listened. When you stop chasing, you'll learn who never valued you. This is not bitterness, it's clarity. You're not cutting people off out of anger, you're creating space out of respect for your future. Not everyone deserves front-row access to your life during a rebuild. Mental discipline begins with structure. Wake up at a consistent time. Train your body even when your mind complains. Work in focused blocks. Eat clean. Sleep properly. This isn't about aesthetics, it's about control. When you control your body, you regain control of your mind. When your body is weak, your thoughts dominate you. When your body is disciplined, you dominate your thoughts. You will feel resistance from within. A voice will say, "You're doing too much." Another will say, "You deserve a break." Understand this, discipline doesn't mean never resting, it means resting on your terms, not your impulses. Rebuilding yourself requires replacing impulse-driven decisions with principle-driven actions. Principles don't negotiate. They don't make excuses. They don't depend on mood. Identity shift happens quietly. Not through affirmations shouted in the mirror, but through actions repeated when no one is watching. Every time you choose discipline over comfort, you cast a vote for a stronger identity. Every time you finish what you start, you reinforce self-trust. And self-trust is everything. Without it, confidence is fake. With it, confidence is inevitable. You must stop consuming motivation and start becoming disciplined. Motivation is emotional. Discipline is logical. Motivation fades. Discipline compounds. The goal is not to feel inspired, it's to be unstoppable regardless of how you feel. The strongest people don't rely on mood, they rely on systems. Systems win when emotions fail. Isolation will make you uncomfortable, but that's the point. Growth does not happen in comfort zones. Comfort zones feel safe because they are familiar, not because they are good for you. Familiar pain is seductive. Unfamiliar discipline feels dangerous. Choose discipline. Every time. Because discomfort now prevents regret later. During this phase, say less. Explain nothing. Move in silence. Let people wonder. Let them misunderstand. You are not here to be liked, you are here to be built. Attention is expensive. Spend it only where it multiplies. Protect your focus like it's sacred, because it is. Your future depends on it. There will be days you feel invisible. Unseen. Unappreciated. Remember this, seeds grow underground before anyone sees results. Roots are built in darkness. If you quit now, you quit right before the breakthrough. Most people quit in this phase because there's no applause. That's why they never rebuild, they return to noise where validation is cheap and growth is optional. Isolation is temporary. Results are permanent. This phase is not your destination, it's your training ground. When you return, you won't need to announce your growth. It will be obvious. Your presence will be heavier. Your words will be sharper. Your standards will be higher. And the same world that ignored you will start paying attention. But for now, stay quiet. Stay focused. Stay disciplined. You are being rebuilt. Pain is not the problem. Avoiding pain is. Most people spend their entire lives running from discomfort, numbing themselves with distractions, entertainment, and excuses. But pain doesn't disappear when you ignore it, it waits. It settles into your habits. It hardens into regret. If you want to rebuild yourself, you must change how you see pain. Pain is not punishment. Pain is information. Pain is pressure. And pressure, when applied correctly, creates power. Every setback you've experienced, every rejection, every failure, every moment of embarrassment or loss, carries energy. That energy can either destroy you or strengthen you. The difference is not the event. It's your response. Weak minds ask, why me? Strong minds ask, what is this teaching me? Rebuilding yourself means extracting lessons instead of collecting wounds. You don't heal by pretending nothing hurt, you heal by using what hurt to sharpen you. Emotional control is the foundation of strength. Not emotional suppression, control. Suppression makes you explode later. Control makes you dangerous in the right way. When emotions control you, your decisions are impulsive and inconsistent. When you control emotions, your actions are deliberate and precise. The goal is not to feel nothing. The goal is to feel everything and still act with discipline. Understand this, emotions are signals, not commands. Anger tells you something is wrong. Fear tells you something matters. Sadness tells you something was lost. But none of these emotions get to decide your actions. You decide. Rebuilding yourself means taking back authority over your internal state. You don't react, you respond. You don't explode, you channel. You don't collapse, you adapt. Pain becomes fuel when you stop personalizing it. Not everything that hurts is an attack. Not every loss is a failure. Sometimes pain is simply the cost of evolution. Muscles grow by tearing. Minds grow by pressure. Character grows by enduring what others avoid. If your life feels heavy right now, it's because you're carrying weight meant to make you stronger, not to crush you. There will be days when your past tries to pull you back. Memories will resurface. Old mistakes will replay. Regret will whisper, it's too late. That voice is lying. The past has only one purpose now, to remind you of who you refuse to become again. You don't move forward by forgetting the past, you move forward by outgrowing it. Use regret as a compass, not a cage. Turning pain into power requires transmutation. You take frustration and convert it into effort. You take anger and convert it into discipline. You take sadness and convert it into focus. You don't waste emotional energy, you invest it. Every emotion becomes raw material. Nothing is wasted. This is how you become resilient. This is how suffering stops being random and starts becoming strategic. Control your inner dialogue. The voice in your head becomes your reality. If it's weak, your life will be weak. If it's disciplined, your life will follow. Speak to yourself like a leader, not a victim. No insults. No pity. Just standards. Clear, calm, non-negotiable standards. When you fall short, you correct, not criticize. Correction builds strength. Criticism builds shame. Rebuilding yourself also means learning how to suffer properly. Not dramatically. Not loudly. Quietly. Patiently. With purpose. You don't need the world to know what you're going through. Some battles are meant to be fought in silence. Not because you're hiding, but because you're focusing. Pain processed in silence builds depth. Pain shared for attention builds dependency. You must become comfortable being uncomfortable. This is the price of growth. Cold mornings. Hard workouts. Long hours. Uncertain outcomes. No instant rewards. Most people quit here because they expect transformation to feel good. It doesn't, at first. It feels heavy. It feels lonely. It feels unfair. But this phase is where strength is forged. Not in comfort. Not in ease. In endurance. There is a calm that comes after you stop resisting pain. A clarity. A sharpness. You stop asking life to be easier and start becoming stronger. This shift changes everything. You stop needing validation. You stop needing approval. You stop needing permission. You become internally anchored. External chaos loses its power over you. Pain doesn't last forever, but weakness does if you refuse to confront it. Choose growth. Choose control. Choose transformation. Every difficult moment is an opportunity to become someone your past self would be proud of. This is not about being fearless. It's about being stronger than fear. And strength is built, one controlled response at a time. Motivation is loud. Discipline is quiet. Motivation makes promises. Discipline keeps them. If you're serious about rebuilding yourself, you must stop waiting to feel ready and start acting like the person you're becoming. Feelings are unreliable. They change with weather, mood, sleep, and circumstances. Discipline doesn't care how you feel, it cares about what must be done. This is the moment where rebuilding stops being emotional and starts becoming mechanical, intentional, and inevitable. Most people live in cycles. Inspired one day. Lazy the next. Focused for a week. Lost for a month. This inconsistency is not a character flaw, it's a systems problem. You don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. If your daily structure is weak, your life will be weak no matter how strong your dreams are. Rebuilding yourself means designing days that make failure difficult and progress automatic. Discipline begins with non-negotiables. Simple rules that are followed regardless of mood. Wake up at the same time. Train your body daily. Do the hardest task first. No excuses. No negotiations. When you remove choice, you remove resistance. The mind wastes energy debating. Discipline conserves energy by deciding once and executing daily. This is how high performers operate, not through willpower, but through structure. Understand this clearly, discipline is not punishment. It's self-respect in action. Every disciplined action is a message to yourself that you are reliable. That you can be trusted. That your word matters. And when you trust yourself, confidence stops being something you chase, it becomes a byproduct of consistency. Self-belief is earned, not imagined. Daily systems turn effort into identity. When you train every day, you don't try to be fit, you are disciplined. When you work daily on your craft, you don't hope for success, you build inevitability. When your environment supports your goals, temptation loses power. Remove friction from good habits. Add friction to bad ones. Make the right choice easier than the wrong one. There will be days when discipline feels boring. Repetitive. Uninspiring. That's a good sign. Boredom means you're past novelty and into mastery. The greatest transformations happen in monotonous consistency, not dramatic bursts. Anyone can be intense for a week. Few can be disciplined for years. Be the few. You must also learn to embrace delayed gratification. Rebuilding yourself means sacrificing comfort today for freedom tomorrow. While others chase pleasure, you chase progress. While others look for shortcuts, you build foundations. The gap between who you are and who you want to be is filled with disciplined days no one applauds. That's where most people quit. That's where you stay. Discipline sharpens decision-making. When your habits are aligned, your mind becomes clear. Less chaos. Less self-doubt. Less emotional swings. You stop overthinking because your actions are already decided by your principles. This internal order creates external power. People feel it. Opportunities respond to it. Life rewards structure. Becoming unstoppable doesn't mean never failing. It means failing without quitting. Missing a day doesn't break discipline, quitting does. You correct immediately. No drama. No guilt. No excuses. Progress is not perfection, it's persistence. This mindset separates rebuilders from dreamers. Stop romanticizing motivation. Motivation is a visitor. Discipline is a resident. Build your life around what stays, not what comes and goes. When motivation returns, let it amplify your discipline, not replace it. Discipline first. Always. You are no longer building habits, you are building standards. Standards define behavior automatically. When your standards rise, your life rises with them. You don't need external pressure when internal standards are high. You become self-governed, self-led, self-built. This is where people start to notice a shift. Not because you announce it, but because your consistency changes the way you move, speak, and decide. Quiet confidence replaces loud ambition. Calm replaces chaos. Focus replaces confusion. Discipline is not exciting. It's powerful. And power, once built, cannot be taken away. Rebuilding yourself reaches a critical point when you realize something uncomfortable. Most of your pain didn't come from failure, it came from tolerating what you should have walked away from. Disrespect. Weak boundaries. Low standards. Situations that drained you. People who took without giving. Self-respect is not arrogance. It's not ego. It's the quiet refusal to betray yourself ever again. Self-respect begins the moment you stop explaining your worth. When you feel the need to convince others of your value, you've already placed yourself beneath them. The rebuilt version of you does not beg for attention, validation, or understanding. You move with calm certainty. You know who you are becoming, and that knowledge anchors you. Opinions lose their grip when your standards are clear. Standards are invisible rules you live by. They determine what you allow, what you tolerate, and what you immediately walk away from. Low standards invite chaos. High standards create peace. Raising your standards will cost you comfort, convenience, and familiarity, but it will give you clarity, strength, and direction. And clarity is priceless. Cutting weak attachments is one of the hardest parts of rebuilding. Not because people are bad, but because some connections belong to the old version of you. Old habits. Old conversations. Old energy. You can't build a disciplined future while staying emotionally attached to undisciplined environments. Growth requires separation. Not out of hate, but out of respect for who you are becoming. You must learn to say no without guilt. Guilt is often a sign that you're used to overgiving. Saying no protects your time, your energy, and your focus. Every yes is a trade. Ask yourself, what am I sacrificing by agreeing to this? If the cost is your progress, the answer must be no. Self-respect chooses long-term growth over short-term approval. Inner authority means you no longer outsource decisions to external validation. You don't need constant reassurance. You don't need permission. You trust your judgment because it's built on discipline and reflection. When you live by your principles, confidence becomes internal. You stop reacting to the world and start shaping it. Raising your standards will feel uncomfortable at first. You'll notice the distance grow between you and people who once had easy access to you. That's not loneliness, that's alignment. You are narrowing your circle to match your direction. Not everyone can walk with you on this path. And that's okay. Self-respect also shows up in how you speak to yourself. No more self-insults disguised as jokes. No more rehearsing failure in your mind. You correct yourself with firmness, not cruelty. You treat yourself like someone you are responsible for protecting and building. Because you are. You'll notice something powerful as your standards rise, drama decreases. Chaos fades. Your life becomes quieter, cleaner, more focused. This is not emptiness, it's peace. Peace is the reward of self-respect. It's what happens when your actions align with your values. People will test your boundaries. Not because they're evil, but because your old version allowed it. The rebuilt version does not argue. Does not explain. Does not negotiate. You simply enforce your standards through action. Walk away. Withdraw attention. Redirect energy. Silence is often the strongest boundary. Self-respect is the foundation of authority. When you respect yourself, others feel it. When they don't, it's still irrelevant, because your approval comes from within. This inner authority makes you stable, grounded, unshakable. You are no longer available for what weakens you. You are no longer compatible with chaos. You are no longer the person who tolerates less than they deserve. This is not arrogance. This is alignment. And alignment changes everything. Discipline without direction becomes burnout. Strength without purpose becomes emptiness. At this stage of rebuilding, you don't just need control, you need reason. Purpose is not something you magically discover one day. It's something you build through action, reflection, and responsibility. Purpose gives your suffering meaning. Without it, pain feels random. With it, pain becomes fuel. Most people confuse purpose with passion. Passion is emotional. Purpose is structural. Passion comes and goes. Purpose anchors you when passion disappears. Your purpose doesn't need to sound impressive to others, it needs to be heavy enough to keep you moving when life gets hard. Purpose is the answer to the question, why do I refuse to quit? Purpose begins with responsibility. Not destiny. Not talent. Responsibility. The moment you decide to carry something bigger than your comfort, your life gains weight. That responsibility might be building a future your family never had. Becoming a disciplined example. Breaking generational cycles. Mastering a craft. Creating something meaningful. Purpose grows when you commit to something that demands your growth. Direction comes from clarity, not certainty. You don't need to see the whole path. You need to see the next step and take it with conviction. Waiting for perfect clarity keeps people stuck forever. Rebuilders move with partial information and adjust along the way. Momentum creates clarity. Action reveals direction. A mission bigger than motivation is what keeps you grounded during doubt. Motivation is emotional energy. A mission is a decision. When your mission is clear, you don't wake up asking, do I feel like it? You wake up asking, what needs to be done? This shift separates serious builders from casual dreamers. Your purpose must be rooted in values. Values don't change when circumstances do. Discipline. Integrity. Growth. Contribution. Mastery. Choose values that demand excellence from you. When your actions align with your values, life feels coherent, even when it's difficult. Internal alignment creates external stability. Purpose also requires sacrifice. You cannot pursue everything. Focus demands exclusion. To move forward, you must let go of distractions that don't serve your mission. This will feel uncomfortable, especially in a world that celebrates instant gratification. But understand this, every meaningful life is built on intentional sacrifice. You are trading now for later. Comfort for competence. Pleasure for progress. As your purpose sharpens, your decisions become simpler. Not easier, but simpler. You stop wasting energy on things that don't matter. You stop chasing validation. You stop comparing paths. Comparison disappears when direction is clear. You become too busy building to be distracted by noise. Purpose gives structure to time. Days stop blending together. Mornings have intention. Evenings have reflection. Time becomes an asset, not something that slips through your fingers. You start respecting your time because it's invested in something meaningful. Wasted time feels expensive now, and that awareness changes behavior. You may feel pressure as your purpose solidifies. That pressure is a sign you're carrying something real. Responsibility is heavy, but it's also empowering. When you accept responsibility voluntarily, you gain control. Life stops happening to you and starts responding to you. Purpose is not about guarantees. There are no guarantees. It's about commitment despite uncertainty. You don't need certainty to move forward, you need conviction. Conviction grows through action, not thinking. Act. Adjust. Repeat. This phase is where rebuilding turns into direction. Where discipline finds meaning. Where suffering gains context. You are no longer just improving, you are building towards something. And when you have a reason strong enough, no obstacle feels final, no setback feels permanent, and no effort feels wasted. Purpose doesn't make the journey easy. It makes it worth it. At some point in rebuilding yourself, you realize a hard truth: the path forward is narrow, and often empty. Not because you are better than others, but because growth naturally separates. Different standards create different directions. And different directions create distance. Loneliness is not a flaw in the process, it is part of the process. Most people fear being alone more than being weak. They stay in crowds that drain them because solitude exposes truth. When you walk alone, there's no one to blame, no one to distract you, no one to lean on emotionally. Just you and your discipline. That level of accountability is uncomfortable, but powerful. Solitude forces maturity. Being misunderstood is inevitable when you change. People who benefited from your old version won't understand your new boundaries. People who aren't building won't understand your focus. And people who fear growth will label your discipline as arrogance. Let them. You don't need to be understood to be effective. You need to be aligned. Loneliness during rebuilding feels different from ordinary loneliness. It's quieter. Deeper. It comes not from rejection, but from transition. You no longer fit where you were, and you're not yet where you're going. This in-between space is uncomfortable, but necessary. This is where identity stabilizes. Learn to sit with yourself without needing external validation. No constant messages. No reassurance. No approval. Just self-trust. When you can be alone without feeling empty, you become immune to dependency. And dependency is the enemy of strength. Walking alone sharpens awareness. You begin to notice patterns. Behaviors. Energies. You see how easily people avoid responsibility. How quickly they choose comfort. How rare discipline really is. This awareness can feel isolating, but it also builds discernment. You stop forcing connections. You choose quality over familiarity. Solitude teaches you how to self-regulate. When there's no one to distract you from discomfort, you learn to process emotions properly. You don't dump them on others. You don't escape them. You understand them. This emotional maturity becomes one of your greatest strengths. There will be moments when you question yourself. When the silence feels heavy. When you wonder if the old life was easier. It was. But easier isn't better. Comfort numbs. Growth sharpens. Every step you take alone builds resilience you could never gain in a crowd. The rebuilt version of you does not chase companionship out of fear. You welcome it when it aligns, but you no longer need it. Need creates imbalance. Choice creates stability. When you can walk alone, you choose relationships from strength, not scarcity. Being misunderstood stops hurting when you stop explaining. Explanation is a form of seeking approval. Silence is a form of self-respect. Let your actions speak. Let results answer questions you never respond to. Over time, confusion turns into respect, or irrelevance. Both are fine. Loneliness is temporary. Strength is permanent. This phase does not last forever, but what it builds stays with you. The calm. The focus. The internal stability. These become part of your identity. You carry them into every room you enter. Remember this: the strongest people are not surrounded by noise. They are grounded in silence. They don't announce their growth. They embody it. And when the time comes, the right people recognize it instantly, without explanation. Walking alone is not weakness. It is preparation. And those who learn to stand alone never collapse when others leave. There comes a moment in rebuilding yourself when you realize something subtle but undeniable: you move differently now. You don't rush. You don't explain. You don't seek approval. Your energy is quieter, heavier, more grounded. This is presence. Not confidence that begs to be seen, but confidence that is felt. Presence is the result of internal order. When your mind, body, and values are aligned, your existence alone communicates strength. Silent confidence is built, not displayed. It comes from keeping promises to yourself. From discipline lived daily. From standards enforced without drama. From pain processed instead of projected. People sense this long before you speak. That's why true power doesn't need volume. It doesn't perform. It doesn't posture. It simply is. Commanding respect without words requires control, of emotion, reaction, and ego. You stop reacting to provocation. You stop engaging in pointless debates. You stop proving yourself. When you no longer need to win arguments, you start winning influence. Calm under pressure becomes your signature. Others feel unstable around you because you are stable within yourself. Presence also means awareness. You observe more than you speak. You listen without absorbing nonsense. You choose words carefully. When you speak, it's intentional. Measured. Clear. This economy of expression increases impact. Scarcity creates value. Noise dilutes authority. Power shifts when you stop trying to dominate and start mastering yourself. Self-mastery is intimidating because it's rare. Most people are reactive. Emotional. Predictable. When you are composed, disciplined, and consistent, you break patterns. You become unpredictable in the best way, because you are not driven by impulse. Your body language changes when your inner world is stable. Your posture straightens. Your movements slow. Your eyes hold focus. These are not techniques, they are byproducts. You don't act confident, you are confident because your life supports it. Confidence without foundation is loud. Confidence with foundation is silent. Presence also comes from detachment. Not indifference, but non-attachment. You care deeply about your mission, but lightly about outcomes you can't control. This detachment makes you resilient. You don't cling. You don't chase. You don't collapse when things don't go your way. You adapt. And adaptability is power. As your presence grows, you'll notice people respond differently. Some will respect you. Some will test you. Some will feel uncomfortable. This is normal. Your energy exposes imbalance in others. Do not shrink to make them comfortable. Do not dim yourself to fit rooms you've outgrown. Stand grounded. Let discomfort exist. True authority is internal. It doesn't require titles, status, or validation. It comes from coherence, when who you say you are matches how you live. This coherence creates trust. With yourself first. With others second. And trust amplifies influence. You'll also notice your need for recognition fading. Praise no longer excites you. Criticism no longer destabilizes you. You become centered. Grounded. This emotional neutrality is not emptiness, it's control. You feel deeply without being ruled by feeling. That's strength. Presence turns silence into a statement. You don't rush to fill gaps. You allow pauses. You allow space. Space gives weight to everything you do. When you stop chasing attention, attention follows naturally. When you stop asking to be respected, respect appears. This phase marks a shift from rebuilding to embodying. You are no longer becoming, you are being. The work continues, but the chaos is gone. The noise has settled. What remains is clarity. Power doesn't announce itself. Presence doesn't explain itself. And the strongest people in the room are usually the quietest. Rebuilding yourself reaches its ultimate stage when you realize, life is bigger than comfort, ego, or immediate satisfaction. It's bigger than your daily victories, your routines, your discipline. True power emerges when you begin to build not just for yourself, but for something that will outlast you. This is legacy. This is long-term vision. This is immortality in action. Legacy begins with purpose amplified. It's no longer enough to improve, to survive, to succeed. You must consider, what mark will I leave? What will remain after I am gone? What will people say about my presence, my influence, my actions? Legacy is the standard you hold for the life you're creating, not for applause, but for significance. True builders think beyond recognition, they build for impact. Long-term vision separates the weak from the unstoppable. Most people live in cycles of distraction, short-term reward, and avoidance. Builders operate in decades. They invest where results are slow, where effort compounds, where consistency dominates. Rebuilding yourself means training for a future that may not even exist yet, but one that you will shape. Time becomes an ally, not an enemy. Building a legacy requires sacrifice beyond self-interest. Some relationships fade, some pleasures are postponed, some comforts abandoned. You may work in silence for years while others celebrate mediocrity. This solitude is not punishment, it's focus. You are planting seeds you may never witness, but their shade will shelter others. The rebuilt you invests in continuity, not instant gratification. Vision without execution is fantasy. Legacy is born from action, not thought. The habits you reinforce daily, the discipline you maintain, the focus you preserve, the boundaries you uphold, become the foundation of something enduring. Rebuilding yourself is meaningless if it doesn't create structures, values, and influence that last. Your life must produce, not just consume. Your legacy begins internally. The character you embody today is the foundation of the story told tomorrow. Every ethical choice, every disciplined action, every instance of self-control, every moment you prioritize growth over ease, they compound. Legacy is not flashy. It is consistent. It is deliberate. It is invisible until tested, and then undeniable. Long-term vision also requires perspective. You will encounter setbacks. People will misunderstand you. Life will feel unfair. The short term will tempt you to abandon the long term. This is the test. Builders learn to ignore noise, delays, and misunderstanding. They focus on outcomes measured in decades, not days. Patience becomes your superpower. You will inspire unknowingly. People may never tell you, but your standards, actions, and results ripple outward. Others absorb your strength silently. They are shaped not by your words, but by your presence. A true legacy is influence that continues when you stop acting, when you stop performing, when you are absent. Legacy also demands adaptability. The world changes, obstacles arise, circumstances shift. Builders don't cling to rigid methods, they cling to principles. Your impact is maintained not by perfection, but by resilience. The rebuilt version of you remains anchored regardless of chaos because vision is broader than any single event. Finally, legacy is not vanity, it is contribution. It is the deliberate decision to leave the world incrementally better than you found it. Whether through people you mentor, systems you create, or standards you elevate, your influence extends beyond your lifetime. This is why you rebuild, not for applause, not for wealth, not for approval, but for permanence. Rebuilding yourself is no longer just about survival. It is about crafting an echo that outlives you, a structure of influence that grows quietly, powerfully, invisibly, and cannot be erased by circumstance, opinion, or time. This is the final stage. The point where the pain, discipline, solitude, and relentless focus converge into one undeniable truth: you are no longer who you used to be. Mastery is not about perfection, it is about complete ownership of yourself. Your mind, body, habits, actions, and vision are aligned. Your past no longer dictates your present. Your focus is unshakable. Your standards unbending. Your presence undeniable. Mastery begins with identity. You don't chase who you want to become, you embody it every day. Your habits are no longer tasks, they are expressions of your values. Your discipline is not a choice, it is automatic. Your decisions flow from principles, not emotions. Mastery is the invisible architecture that supports your life. Without it, all progress is temporary. With it, every challenge becomes an opportunity, every setback a lesson, every victory a step toward permanence. Completion is the quiet reward of relentless effort. It is not recognition, applause, or validation. It is the internal knowledge that you gave everything to build, to grow, to transform. You no longer seek external approval because you are already whole. You measure success not in others' eyes, but in the consistency, integrity, and strength you maintain throughout the process. Completion is self-sufficiency in action. Living as the rebuilt version of yourself demands vigilance. You cannot slip back into old patterns without noticing. Discipline, standards, and focus must continue, not as punishment, but as the rhythm of your existence. Mastery is a lifestyle, not a goal. Every day is an opportunity to reinforce the foundation you've painstakingly built. At this stage, life's distractions lose power over you. Drama no longer seduces you. Instant gratification no longer tempts you. Weak attachments no longer sway your focus. You operate from a higher baseline, not because life became easier, but because you became stronger than everything life throws at you. The chaos that once controlled you now flows around you without impact. True mastery includes emotional sovereignty. You experience emotions fully, but they no longer drive your decisions. Anger becomes strategy. Fear becomes fuel. Sadness becomes clarity. Every emotional encounter is processed, learned from, and used to strengthen your resolve. Emotional mastery creates freedom, and freedom fuels further growth. By now, your influence is subtle but powerful. Others notice your calm, your resolve, your integrity, your results. You don't need to announce your accomplishments, your presence communicates everything. Respect is given naturally, not demanded. Authority is recognized instinctively, because mastery is obvious to those who understand it, even if they cannot articulate why. Mastery also includes generosity of impact. You build systems, habits, and frameworks that elevate not only yourself but those around you. You become a standard bearer. A quiet example. Someone who demonstrates that relentless self-improvement is possible, necessary, and transformative. Your legacy and mastery merge, you are both the builder and the blueprint. Completion of your rebuild does not mean the work stops. Growth is eternal. Challenges will continue. Pain will return. Circumstances will shift. But the rebuilt version of you meets these moments not with fear, not with reaction, but with strategy, patience, and confidence. You live life on your terms, guided by principles, anchored in discipline, and elevated by clarity of purpose. Finally, mastery is about living fully, consciously, and intentionally. You are no longer reactive. You are no longer bound by weakness, distraction, or fear. You are the architect of your reality, the guardian of your standards, the silent force others feel but cannot replicate. You are rebuilt. Stronger. Sharper. Focused. Aligned. Unstoppable. Your journey began in struggle. It continued through discipline, pain, and solitude. It matured into clarity, purpose, and presence. And now, you live as the person you were always meant to become. You are no longer rebuilding. You are complete. You are mastery incarnate. You are focused. You are unstoppable.